Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Daniel Schwarz from Institute of Biostatistics and Analyses, and I'll be facilitating today's discussion. Our topic for today is how CROs can stand out, or in the wording increasingly used nowadays in the updated GCP landscape, how service providers in clinical research can differentiate through the strategic value of certifications, markings, and compliance. When we were putting this webinar together, we had two practical points or goals in mind, and I would like to keep them balanced today. So first of all, credibility and trust. What I mean is that the certifications and the compliance marks or frameworks, what those mean in day-to-day operations beyond the slogans, because we are not interested only in the slogans, but rather what sponsors and partners actually look for as the evidence. And the second point, which I would like to balance, is the real business value or competitiveness. So it means how that certified maturity translates into stronger positioning of bids, faster vendor qualification, or even more efficient delivery processes. So although the title of the webinar mentions ECRIN and EHDEN as two concrete or particular examples, we will take a much broader view today. Based on the confirmed panelists and their expertise, we will be touching also on data privacy in terms of operational and also cybersecurity side of business. And now, before I hand over to our panelists, just a short notice. We would very like have your questions, and just to give you some technical insight, put your questions into the chat, and all of the panelists will be looking at the chat, observe it, and we will pick up the questions during our discussions. More or less, the discussion will be between or among the panelists. Okay, so use the chat actively. Don't hesitate to ask the panelists because they are here for you. Okay, and now let me warmly welcome my guests or our guests. So it's Victoria Watts, Lenka Souckova, and Sokratis Nifakos. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for the great preparation which is behind us. And to set the scene for everyone on the call, could I ask you please do a quick 1-minute intro, focus on your current role, the lens you bring to CRO or SP, service provider maturity, and why this, I mean the data privacy, certifications, compliance markings, why this matters now. So Victoria, maybe would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Daniel. So my name is Victoria Watts. I am the Vice President Compliance Officer at Premier Research. That's my day job. I'm also the Chairman of the COSUP, which is the new monitoring body for the EUCROF GDPR Code of Conduct for Service Providers in Clinical Research, which I will refer to as the EUCROF Code because that's quite a long title. My interest in this, obviously, for what I do as a compliance officer in general, I'm the head of privacy, head of compliance, and I'm very much interested in making sure that the partners that we work with are meeting standards. That's one of the parts of my job, which is made considerably easier if we can measure them objectively. And then my other main interest in the topic today is talking to you about the EUCROF code and the value that that can bring to a CRO and also to the other stakeholders within clinical research to allow CROs to demonstrate compliance with the GDPR in an objective fashion. So that's my main interest today.
Yeah, very interesting. Thanks, Victoria. I'm very much looking forward to EUCROF code. It's something new. And now, Lenka, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lenka Souckova and very happy to be here. I wear two hats that perfectly align with today's topic, I would say. On one side, I represent ECRIN, the European Clinical Research Infrastructure Network, as a European correspondent, where I would like to introduce the ECRIN Data Center Certification Program. And this program sets rigorous, practical standards for data management and IT systems in clinical research, and enables high-quality, compliant, and secure data handling across certified centers in Europe. And on other side, I speak from the sponsors, representative academic sponsors of multinational clinical trials, where I have hands-on experience using ECRIN certified data centers such as IBA. And for me, as a sponsor representative, information security and that data governance are far more than boxes on a checklist. And they are operational realities that build confidence, streamline execution, and ensure regulatory compliance across borders. So today, I'm looking forward to sharing practical insights on how robust information security and certified infrastructure institution can truly differentiate the clinical research bits, especially when new medicines and complex data flow are involved. So that's why I'm here.
Okay, thank you, and I'm very, very glad having you on the board, because your viewpoint from the academic point of view, because academic sponsors are coming with the horizon type of financing the research. It's very important, I think, for CROs or service providers. So thank you. And now, Sokratis, your turn.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. My name is Sokratis Nifakos, and I'm also representing academia. I'm a researcher at Karolinska Institute in Sweden, in the Department of Learning, Informatics, Management and Ethics. And my focus, my research domain is around the organizational dimensions of information security, privacy compliance, and governance within healthcare settings. And here in this webinar, my angle is that security in clinical research isn't primarily a technological problem, it's a people and process problem. So CROs and service providers are often more exposed than they realize, precisely because they focus on the technical layer. So this is, I think the discussion would be around this kind of the technical dimension and the human behavior, and I will try to bring some insights on that field. Thank you.
Yeah, that's very much true indeed. Thank you, Sokratis. And just to complete the picture, my name is Daniel Schwarz. I'm with the IBA Institute of Biostatistics and Analyses. We operate as a CRO or SP with a strong emphasis, I would say, on data quality. So our daily bread is governed data management and biostatistics you can stand behind. We also run in-house R&D and build some of the tooling that CROs often use in practice, including EDC platform, CLADIS, and I'm personally interested in this topic, and I was very happy to build this webinar because expectations are shifting fast. Data governance today is no longer a nice to have, it's becoming an expected baseline. And I believe that the organizations such as ours and also other CROs can, if it can prove maturity in this particular field, it can not only win the trust, but also win the work. And this is what we are aiming at. So thank you very much for the introductions. And so let's go for the first round of questions. So we will keep the order. So Victoria, from your perspective, I mean from the perspective of EUCROF, so the European Federation of CROs, what was the problem which you were trying to solve with the upcoming EUCROF Code of Conduct for the clinical research service providers?
So we were trying to tackle two main things. One, which is from the perspective of the CRO, to provide guidance and on how to interpret the GDPR, and the other was to create consistency in implementation of the GDPR so that we can create a more robust, transparent and trusted network of data processors throughout the world who are processing really critical data that is being generated in clinical trials. So in the first point on there, coming back to helping CROs interpret the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation, the clue is in the name, it's general. It is designed for all industries, all types of company, all types of processing activities. It is not specific to clinical research or for processing health data. It is very much open to interpretation. That's how it's designed. And so, of course, you can have almost as many interpretations of the GDPR as there are people in the room at any given time. That presents challenges, and it means that it's very difficult to come to a consensus on what exactly is GDPR compliance. What does that look like? Because different companies will have a different view on this. And what we wanted to do is create a code that would remove some of that uncertainty. It is a big burden, I think, for many companies to have to apply a lot of resources to independently come up with an interpretation of how the GDPR applies to them and to their industry. The EUCROF code short circuits that, because essentially we have created a code with the collaboration of the data protection supervisory authorities across Europe. It is fully approved by them, so that we've defined what GDPR compliance looks like. What does good look like for CROs, for service providers within clinical research? So there is no uncertainty left there. And it means that sponsors and sites who are wondering whether they're dealing with a reliable partner, they will be able to measure against an objective standard whether or not their partner is compliant. And that's hugely important. It saves a huge amount of time on both sides, for the CRO and for the sponsor and for sites. It creates that, to my second point, that environment where data can be flowing with certainty and surety that it's going to be protected in the right way, and that's going to enable much swifter decisions to be made, much quicker timelines on starting up sites and enrolling patients, which is what we really need to get to for the clinical research. No one wants to spend too much time on paperwork, so people want to have a method to move that along quickly. So that's what we were trying to achieve.
Okay, so I think that you very nicely framed the problem, and thank you very much for that. And I also liked the idea of this EUCROF Code of Conduct from the first moment I heard about it from you. Anyway, if I can follow up on the first question. So we have the problem, you are framing this or shortcutting a lot of interpretation to an auditable framework. And my question would be, where, from your perspective, where do the CROs or SPs, service providers, most often fail in real life? Is it vendor, sub-processor governance, documentations, data transfers, incident handling, or human behavior, or maybe something else?
Well, all of the above, actually. You see a lot of failures in a lot of different ways. I think, for me, though, the question is, are the failures, or let's call them deficiencies, are they going to have impact or not? I mean, I think it's inevitable that companies will not comply 100% of the time in 100% of the scenarios. I mean, that is going to happen. So you then have to look at where you put your resources and have they made sensible decisions. I'm most frequently, when I'm assessing the compliance of organizations, I'm thinking about whether or not they've made the right choice. Because if you do have to, all of us have to live with the reality of, that we work in organizations where we don't have a magic money tree. We have finite resources, we have finite time, so we can't do everything. So you then have to choose between what you might broadly call legal compliance, the documentation, and the more control-based compliance. And if you have to make a decision between documentation and controls, I would go for controls every time. If you have the controls in place but your documentation is not great, I'd feel better that the fact that you have a control. You could have the best documentation in the world, but if you haven't actually implemented any controls, then it's just a piece of paper and it's not going to shield you from anything. So where I see that people make the mistakes on the documentation side is generally lack of knowledge and lack of time of being able to decipher what they needed to do. And that's, again, where the EUCROF code can step in and give that framework of they don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can just follow an established best practices, a clear step-by-step guide as to what they should be doing. Beyond that, then you're talking about controls, and they need to implement those things. Use the framework to guide them on making the right risk-based decisions. And that's the most impactful thing, I think, I would say, that I see as a failure, is companies not making risk-based decisions. Because if you haven't done a risk assessment, you don't know where your threats are. You don't know what you should or shouldn't be doing. You don't know what your gaps are. So that, I think, is the key aspect that is the most worrying kind of failure, because then you couldn't possibly have the right controls in place.
Okay, absolutely clear. So thank you very much, Victoria, and I will come back to you because I have a lot of other questions, of course. But anyway, Lenka, you've said in your introduction or mentioned ECRIN data center certification. So it's a second framework here after the EUCROF code. Let's talk about this, which has been already here for several years. And my question is, what capability areas does this audit look at? Is it IT, data management, project management, or everything? Maybe can you introduce this specific data center certification program?
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. ECRIN data center certification was developed to confirm their ability to provide compliant, effective, and efficient data management services for controlled clinical trials. And the goal is to enhance high-quality data management services for clinical trials and contribute to harmonization of European practice in data management. And when we refer to ECRIN data center certification, the audit evaluates three core capabilities domains, as you mentioned. First, this IT infrastructure and security, including system validation, access control, backup and disaster recovery, data protection and compliance, of course, with the GCP and GDPR. Secondly, it is data management processes, such as standard operation procedure, database design and validation, quality of control processes and procedures, audit trails, and long-term data integrity. And the third, it is about the project management and governance, ensuring clearly defined roles, documented workflows, risk management, and quality oversight to support multinational clinical trials. Across all these three domains, the ultimate priorities are data validity and patient safety. One of the eligibility for the certification requires documented experience in conducting clinical trials. So during the audit, organization processes and compliance are evaluating using concrete examples from previously conducted studies. So the certification framework is designed to ensure that trial data are reliable, traceable, regulatory compliant, because robust systems are not just about efficiency, and they are fundamental to protecting participants and ensuring credible scientific outcomes, I would say.
Okay, thank you. So you mentioned the audit and where the auditors look into. So do I understand it well that during the audit you are not only interested in SOPs on the paper, but the auditors also look at the system and they require some evidence? So are we talking about on-site audits and how intensive they are? Can you just spend several words on that?
Yes, the certification process consists from many steps. First is something like a self-evaluation report to provide these evidence that all these requirements are fulfilled, including all already conducted and finalized clinical trials within the data center. And I have to say that it takes a really lot of time, not only prepare or complete this questionnaire, but really prepare for the audits. And I would highly suggest to do something like a pre-audits visit from the independent participant to be sure that all the standards predefined by ECRIN are in line what we are seeing, because sometimes you can see that we read the same text, but the interpretation could be different. So
it's like with the GDPR,
exactly.
What mentioned Victoria. Yes, so we are on the same page here.
Yes.
So
yes.
yeah, I do understand that there is this self-evaluation, and after that is the audit. So it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of resources. So
Yes.
a natural question would be, how do you then explain to the clinical trial units or data centers that there is some value behind this? Why it's not sufficient to have just the GCP compliance and GDPR compliance? So what's the value for the sponsors if they work with the audited data centers?
Yes, I usually say that the GCP and GDP is the foundation, but it's not the full infrastructure. And GCP tells you what needs to be ensured: data integrity, subject protection, documentation, oversight. But it does not tell you how robustly and consistently those processes are implemented across system teams. And if we are talking about the multinational clinical trials in countries, because there are many specificities national. And ECRIN certified institution or data centers demonstrated the operating and operational framework behind GCP is matured, valid, externally audited. For a sponsor running multinational trials, that means reduced operational risk, definitely. Harmonized quality standards across site, and greater confidence that the data will stand up to regulatory scrutiny. In short, GCP compliance is necessary, but ECRIN certification provides independent evidence of capability, scalability, and operational reliability. From my personal point of view, I would say that each inspection, each audit increase definitely and optimize the processes in each institution even better.
Okay. Thanks, that's clear. And I think that we can see here a pattern, or we can hear a pattern, which is it's not just the slogan or logo or SOPs, it's the evidence trail which should probably bother the sponsors and ask the CROs. Okay, so let's move to Sokratis and the cybersecurity. Sokratis, you mentioned two sides of the maturity or the readiness. There are some technical controls and operational behavior, also the human factor. So which side fails more often? I know that I'm giving very simplified questions, but can you address this?
There is some kind of like boundary between technical controls and operational behavior, and it's clearer in theory than in practice. So technical controls are your firewalls, encryption, access management, audit logs, things that you can configure and verify. But operational behavior is what your staff actually do. So how they handle personal information, whether they follow access protocols under deadline pressure, how subcontractors are onboarded and offboarded. So in my research, operational behavior fails far more often, and it's more dangerous because it's invisible until something goes wrong. So a misconfigured firewall will trigger an alert, right? A staff member sharing personal information, or a sub-processor who never formally went through a security review, that can sit undetected for months. So the irony is that, based on my research, that a significant amount of not only operational CROs, but also other people with similar roles in the clinical domain invest disproportionately in technical controls because they are tangible and auditable, while organizational culture and day-to-day behavior are treated as soft issues. And I would say they're not. They are where most real breaches originate. So we need to focus in both sides, technical and operational behavior.
Okay, so would you agree with me that if some CIO in a CRO buys a very expensive firewall, it's an illusion that he makes everything secure, he or she makes everything secure, right? Is that an illusion?
Yeah, I would say yes. And it's why it's the most dangerous illusion is that compliance equals to security, and that's an illusion. Passing an audit or holding a certificate is a point in a time snapshot. It tells you where you were, not where you are today. So CROs operating across multiple jurisdictions with multiple subcontractors handling sensitive patient data and are in a continuously shifting risk environment. So the illusion of being covered because the paperwork is in order leads an organization to stop asking the harder question. Are people actually behaving securely right now, today, and under real working conditions? I think also the second dangerous illusion is that small CROs are low-value targets. Attackers increasingly use small service providers as an entry point into larger sponsor organizations. So your risk isn't just about your own data, it's about the trust your sponsor places in your supply chain.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Let me add one layer from our organizational perspective at IBA now, because the webinar title mentions both ECRIN and EHDEN, two European infrastructures active in clinical research with two different markings or certifications. So what I wanted to say from the perspective of IBA is that in our case, having these multiple certifications and compliance marks made sense for two reasons. First was, again, the competitive advantage in, let's say, larger bids or project proposals, because sponsors or European consortia in Horizon want some credible signals that you can deliver complex service. And the second point was the real process improvement, because what I was really observing was that once you are preparing for more audits, it forces clarity in roles in your organization, it forces clarity in the documentation and how you handle the incidents, etc. So now, today we have some ISO certifications, 9K, 27K, and on the top of that also the ECRIN and EHDEN, and how these two differentiate is a simple. The ECRIN data center certification, which was mentioned by Lenka, it's again very broad, also very specific. So the audit is really very difficult to pass. Anyway, it's really a process-based framework, I would say, across IT, data management, and general project governance. So it touches not only the technical controls mentioned by you, Sokratis, but also the operational delivery. Whereas the EHDEN or EHDEN, which is another European health data infrastructure, it's primarily skill-based. When we were acquiring this certification, we were more focused on harmonizing real-world data under the OMOP. OMOP is a kind of common data model. It's an observational medical outcomes partnership. And so our people were forced or trained to do a lot of ETL work on the data sets. So in other words, it's mostly about the technical data and harmonizational capability. And again, the practical consequence for our CRO, for the IBA, was that nowadays, I would say, and I'm proud of that, that we can operate comfortably across both worlds. In the ECRIN, we work in multicentric clinical studies, whereas in the EHDEN, we work with real-world evidence projects like patient registries, etc. So I will stop here now, and because we still don't have any questions from the audience, I'm just encouraging. Please feel free to ask any panelist or me, but I would rather prefer our panelists. And let's go for the second round of questions. So now I will put it for anybody. So who is first goes first. How do you make sure that the compliance is real work and not a theater, not just slogans? What internal indicators or KPI are there to track day-to-day, month-to-month operations? What could be the important or useful indicators of maturity of a service provider? Victoria, you unmuted. You are the first.
I did, yeah. I do a lot of vendor assessments. So I have particular things that I look for that are key indicators for me. I would never ever ask the question, are you GDPR compliant? Because it's too broad and people will say yes, and then that they think that's the end of it. It's like, no, there are questions you have to follow on for. One of the things I look for the governance structure they put in place for how they manage data protection within the organization. For example, things like how they've appointed a data protection officer and who they've appointed. That's very revealing usually, and it's a key indicator for me as to whether or not the organization is taking it seriously, whether they have appropriate expertise on hand within the company, or that they've actually outsourced to an external service provider who can give them that expertise. So that, just by itself is very revealing of, do they have the right expertise?
Mm-hmm.
The second one is about, I want to see evidence that they have done data protection risk assessments or DPIA. I want to know that they understand that process and what the value of it is, and I want to have evidence that they've done it. That's, again, a key indicator. If they give me answers like, oh, well, our data management team have validated the system, that's not related. That's not related to GDPR compliance. That doesn't mean you have actually considered any of the legal aspects of personal data processing. So again, that's a real giveaway that they've not put due care and attention to what the GDPR actually requires. And the other big giveaway as well is companies that mistake and confuse a privacy notice and a data protection policy. Again, that comes back to governance. So that one really upsets me. If people, I ask them for their data protection policy and they provide me the URL for their website and their privacy notice on that website. I'm like, that does not govern how you process personal data within the company. That is a transparency notice that is required by the GDPR. And sometimes you can see that they have not even removed the drafting notes from ChatGPT. So those are things that, like, specific artifacts that I look for that really tell me a lot.
Okay, so clear signals.
Yeah.
And that's. Do you have anything to add, Sokratis, to this? Are there any signals from the technical point of view?
Like from my side, it's more like behavior. It's a little complementary to Victoria's, but it's more behavioral, not documentary. For example, our staff raising security questions unprompted are near misses being reported internally without fear of punishment. It's kind of like questions. Is the DPO or security function consulted before a new tool is deployed or after? So these kind of organizational processes. And organizations that are usually like in a mature, in a high maturity level, treat security as a normal part of their operations. So it shows up in the meeting agendas, project kickoffs, vendor conversations, not just in annual audits.
Okay, good. So this is during the daily operations, and now let's move to bidding, because we want to work. We need to write project proposals and bids. So here I want to ask Lenka, because you are very active in Horizon kind of research. So how can data center, CRO or service provider talk or write about data privacy, data security credibly in the bids without oversharing, and on the other side, without being too vague? How to prove that, because we still don't have the EUCROF code of conduct. We will ask Victoria when this is available. But nowadays, what you are observing in the proposals, and maybe how should they or how can they prove that they have a good data privacy behaviors?
First of all, I would say that from a sponsor's perspective, it's essential to ensure that the service provider is both compliant and reliable, independently if you are asking for grant support or not. And one option is conduct a direct audit of the sponsor of the service provider. However, if a provider is already ECRIN certified, this provides a high level of assurance as a certification process involves, and as a rigorous and comprehensive evaluation of organizational structure, quality system, and operational procedure. From a perspective of applicants for the Horizons or another multinational grant calls, I would say it is absolute core. And the basis, because it doesn't matter if we do which type of the research we do, if it is ATMP, new medicines, medical device, all we depend and reliable on the data. And if we are able to provide the evidence that our data center, our data management system is healthy and is reliable and valid, I think it is really score points to be successful in this application. So definitely, it from my perspective, it is added value to have this ECRIN certification or any type of the independent certification of the processes, and to be sure that the data are correct, this Alcoa system, and it definitely it can contribute to the patient's safety and then outcome of this all this research.
Yeah, thank you. So if I can rephrase that just to prove my understanding, it's you can either write a lot of words and letters, you can prompt ChatGPT about data privacy. This is one possibility. And the second is that you prove it through audit and you have some objective code of conduct. And here I want to come back to Victoria because I'm very curious, how will service providers be able to use this GDPR code of conduct, and also when this is available? Can you share this with us?
Sure, I can do. So the EUCROF code is designed to be customizable by the company who is wanting to show their adherence. So they will select which services of their that they're supplying, and those are the ones that will have to meet the requirements applicable to those services. So we have a nice little matrix of what you have to do if you are providing each service. So this will provide sponsors with a real view on, are they compliant in the right way for the service they're supplying, and that's, you know, that statement of applicability is really important. And I should say as well, compliance with the code is a high standard to meet. So if you are successful in getting awarded a compliance mark, it means something. If everyone, if GDPR compliance was easy, everyone would do it. So this is a real test of whether or not people have implemented a robust framework. And that also demonstrates that you are a good partner in general. It shows that you are diligent, you pay attention to detail, and you put in the work of structuring your company in ways that are conducive to compliance and good quality standards. So that, that's a good signal. In terms of when it's available, the website is actually available now. People can start their applications already. I'm happy to put that into the chat. And the COSUP, the monitoring body for the code, we've just received accreditation from the CNIL, which is the Data Protection Authority in France. So we are just doing the final touches on getting ourselves ready to actually do the assessments. So companies, as I said, CROs can apply now. They can submit their applications, and the COSUP will be in a position to assess those applications Q2, beginning of Q3. So it's a good opportunity to be one of the first.
Yeah, so this is really practical, and I'm not sure if I understood that there is already an accredited body within EUCROF who will give the certificates.
Yes. So the code of conduct, the actual text itself of the code, was approved in September 2024. And then since then, we've been working on the accreditation for the monitoring body, that's the COSUP, which puts the COSUP in a position of basically being a type of co-regulator. We are given the accreditation to assess CROs who are applying and to grant them the right to use a compliance mark, to display a compliance mark. And of course, the COSUP will do any enforcement if a CRO is found to be non-compliant later on down the line. We will be the first point of call. So it's a very prestigious position to be in. It's quite new. There are not that many codes of conduct in existence at all, and this is the first in the area of health. So it is the first transnational code in the area of health and research. So yes, it's new for everybody, but it's very exciting, and I think it will be a game changer for the industry.
Yeah, I believe that. Really exciting, and I'm very happy that we are hearing this in our webinar. And again, I'm very happy having you on board. And for everybody who is listening, this is a nice opportunity to read the code, to apply and get the certification. Because as also other panelists said, certification is not just painful work. It should be also an advantage on the market. Okay, we have one question in the chat. I spotted. How do you reduce operational friction in multicentric studies, especially around user management, role-based access, evidence for vendors, without drowning the team in manual documentation? So I'll try to comment on that. Manual documentation, it's really exactly the pain point, I would say, in multicentric or any kind of clinical study. If access, governance, and evidence packs or frameworks are handled manually, I would say the friction really explodes. So our approach at IBA is to at first standardize the data management backbone. I mean, data management also covers data privacy. And second is that we automate the evidence whenever is possible. I mean, for example, user onboarding, offboarding, role-based access, data export, but also control data transfers. And for us at IBA, the key enabler for this is our own, and I would say very good EDC, system clade eyes. So we can build these controls. It's technical controls, but still we can build this directly into the workflow rather than stitching different systems or stitching this across different tools. And the result is obvious. It's a faster startup, fewer ad hoc workarounds, and cleaner evidence. So this is my comment. Do you want anyone, Lenka, Victoria, Sokratis, to comment on this question as well?
That's it's quite challenging, this indeed, and to eliminate the documentation requirement. I mean, you cannot do it, but you can change who does it and when. So maybe automation is a process that you can implement. Moving from manual to event-driven documentation, like automation, and continuous logging. So you have modern identity and access management systems. They generate audit reports for you, evidence-based. So it's I think it's automation is one possible way to be, because there are tools in place that you can move from manual documentation to something like more automated.
Thank you. Good. Yeah, and also Victoria shares the URL to the EUCROF code of conduct. So please find the information and apply. And yeah, I mean, the time is going. So maybe before we wrap, I would like to hear one sentence from each of you. And let's focus this final remark a little bit more. So imagine that there is a 30 to 50 people CRO, and if this kind of CRO does only one thing in the next 30 days to stand out, because this is in our title, I mean, in standing out in the credibility, what should it be? What should be the thing it should focus on as a first priority? And let's go again from Victoria.
Well, I think it would be to put in place a framework for how you are going to assess what's important in your company and how you demonstrate compliance with those regulations, putting in place the way in which you can actually be successful. You're not going to achieve anything substantial in the first month or two, but you can set yourself up to go the right way by defining your framework of how you are going to achieve this, the roles and responsibilities that are in place, getting the buy-in from your internal stakeholders, and making sure that the company is aligned and is supportive of what you are trying to achieve. That's how you set yourself up for success in the future. And by definition, that'll help you have a better story for when you are in front of a client, that you've been intentional about what you're planning to do. It's not haphazard. It's not by accident. It's what you meant to do right from the start.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. This is good advice, I would say. Lenka, what would be the first priority of the CRO to do next 30 days?
I would say it would be mapping of their roles to system access and automate the activation. I would say in practical terms, it is define a clear role categories across all centers, link each role to predefined system permission, and ensure access automatically expire when the role ends. the most operational friction, I would say, audit findings and privacy risk in multi-center clinical trials stem from unclear or outdated user access, I would say. And fixing role-based access control reduce compliance risk, administrative burden, and sponsor concerns. It is small structural change, but I would say with really high impact.
Thanks a lot. And you, Sokratis, what would you recommend?
I would recommend to conduct a sub-processor access and data flow review, because it will reduce your blind spots around where patient data actually travels in the supply chain, in your supply chain, and it will improve your ability to answer these sponsor security questions with evidence rather than assumptions. So, sub-processor access and data flow review.
Are there any tools for that which you like to recommend?
If there are, yes, and if anyone is interested, I think we can after this webinar we can send a list of available.
Yeah,
I don't want to sponsor any tools because also they are, but we can have a list. Yeah,
good. Lenka and Victoria, they are sharing some links, so feel free to share whatever you would recommend. Okay, thank you everyone who joined. We have some comments from Gabriela Onofre. Yeah, it's okay, and we will definitely share some outcomes from this webinar. And big thank you to the speakers, to Lenka, Victoria, Sokratis. Thank you very much for your valuable insights and for engaging with us and also with the questions I put. And I'm sure that we've seen strong interest today and also a nice overlap with among all of us. So while we may not have been able to address everything, we will definitely continue in this conversation. And with that in mind, and for those who are interested, we are planning another session. We will organize a small by invitation roundtable for CROs who are interested, and I believe this will be another opportunity for even more focused and practical exchange of ideas. So we will share further details shortly. Once again, thank you for all of you who joined. I want also thank to Global Advisory Alliance, to Karol Krtička, who helped a lot to organize this session, and hope that you will enjoy the rest of your day.